All right, good morning, everyone. How are you? Let's give it up for the band. Tim always says that. Let's give it up for the band leading us in worship today. Yes, so good. I also want to take a moment in case we forget, because I will forget, but you guys understand how much work it is just to create the production elements that you sit in all the time here at GM, from the lighting to the screens to the videos to even the words that go on the screen and how those are treated. Let's like honor those who spend hours and hours doing this. Hours. Go ahead and look back there and say thank you generally to all of our production and tech teams who also work other jobs, by the way. Most of them are not employees of Genesis Metro Church. Maybe someday, that's a dream, right? But we are so grateful. That was absolutely beautiful. I love it, I love it. It's been a great, I hope you got some sleep. Anybody get sleep? Does anybody's hair smell like campfire this morning? I was like, oh, I need some hair perfume if they make that. Does anybody use that? I can't find one. I would love a link. Send it on. Help a sister out. Hair perfume. Dry shampoo sometimes just doesn't, the smell doesn't stick. Anyway, don't get close to me because my hair smells like fire. So 20 years we have, of course, you're going to know that. You already know that. But, you know, this morning I got a text from a friend. Now, there are a few people who have been around pretty much for 20 years, 17, 18, 19. One of them is Raquel Russell, who had to be at work today. But you like Raquel? Let's hear for Raquel. Some of you are like, I don't know her. Because you know what? It's okay. There's some of you are like, I just got here. I don't know anybody. It's okay. We're happy that you're here. And we're big enough now as a church, we're not going to know everybody. We've been operating in these years where everybody knows everybody, and it's a little weird now because we don't. In fact, some of you, most of you put on your registrations, I don't know anyone. Who would you like to be with? I don't have any friends here, so I don't know. And so maybe you're in a group even with people that you don't know very well, or you just met last night. Hello. You're welcome that you're not sleeping in the same bed with them, because if you go away, sometimes that's how it happens. Debbie Campbell and Lisa Little have a really funny story about that. When they first met, we were sleeping 3 to a bed in king-size beds then, because we didn't know what we were doing back in the day. Nobody wants to do that. So Raquel this morning said I couldn't sleep because I started going down memory lane when she saw the board out there, and she sent me now that don't put it up yet. There was a few years where I mentioned we did things like the guys did, right? One of those years, there was a year, I think 2009, that I made 2010, 9, 10, I think we actually got in the water twice. When I say water, I mean nasty, disgusting, East Texas snake-filled pond water, okay? And it was like you either had to cross it, the whole thing, like, or you'd have to do something in it with your team, So there was one year that we had brought rafts, okay? And you had to, essentially, there were not enough rafts as women that we had on purpose. And it was like survival of the fittest to get your own raft, to get across. If you could get a raft, you could get across on a raft and you wouldn't have to get the water. You talk about turn women into animals. That is exactly, including myself. I don't like getting in the water that's like mushy with like the stuff, and you're just like, something is in here. So anyway, I could tell, I'm giving instructions with a bullhorn because that's how fancy we were. And I can tell there's just like one left. My eye is on it. And I can see Raquel and Monica Wood waiting. They're waiting for me to get done because they're going after this raft. And in my mind, I thought, well, I'm not letting them get the raft. All three of us being similar personalities of, oh, we're going to get it done. So yeah, I'm going to win. I'm going to win, right? Win at all costs, like everybody's going down. So we wrestle for this last one. I think Monica and I ended up, I literally wrenched it out of her hands. Should I be doing that as the leader? No. I should just let her have it. But I'll be dang if I was getting in that water. Now, if you know Raquel, back to Raquel, she is the one that once said to me, I was like, are you going on the mission trip? Oh no, some of us are prayed to go, are called to go. Some of us are called to pray for those. I'll be praying. She was not made for the outdoors, right? Anybody else? Not made for the outdoors? Okay. So she has to get in this water. And she gets across it, but she is not happy. And she is looking at me. And then somebody takes a picture, and I think this is it, where she does come out smiling out of the water. Oh. A little bit. I think I named that picture Raquel Out of the Water Defeated. She found this. Debbie. So then there was a year that we did a fire walk. Go ahead and show that. We had to walk on hot coals. Lena's in the background there. I think she's still here. I mean, y'all, we made women, we burned those fires in the pitch black woods and then said, walk on it if you trust God. Now you're really going to show us that you trust God. Are you enjoying the conference so far at year 20? Not year 3? You're welcome. There we go. All right. Okay, so walk down memory lane is over on the 20 years. Let's review quickly the cast of characters from last night. Just throw it up there so we can see. We have a few people. We have King Xerxes, we have Vashti, we have Esther, of course, and we have Mordecai. And Mordecai is her uncle. We are going to be introduced to a new character today in just a few minutes, but we'll hold off on him. I just wanted to remind you where we are. I had so many notes. We had to start cutting it this morning because I was like, we'll be here till noon if I get through all this. So we're going to this morning, talk about courage, the courage to stand. The courage to stand when it's very scary. There is a quote by Anonymous, could not find who it is, and it's basically that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is you do it fearful. You do it scared anyway. It's not that you're not scared, it's that you do it scared. You go ahead and you do it anyway. You get it done. I would say maybe on a spiritual level, we would say it like this. We would say courage doesn't wait for confidence, it walks in faith. Right? Courage doesn't wait for the confidence, it walks in faith. What do you think that is? Have you ever thought about courage? You know, our day and age, our generation, we have never had to go to war. Our husbands have not had to go to war. Some of us have grandfathers, great-grandfathers. My dad was in the military. My grandfathers, my uncles, my great-uncles were all either in Vietnam or the Korean War or World War II. I have some of that in my family. Some of us are old enough to have that, right? Some of us are not. Some of us, maybe I would say the closest thing we have would be Desert Storm and then all of the wars and the deployments that have happened in the last 20 years in the Middle East. You've had some that have gone there to fight. But I would say courage, you know, when I think of the word courage, I think of war, like getting yourself worked up enough to stand in front of the enemy and fight, right? We don't really know what that is. We don't really know, but we know enough in our lives that there are some times when just getting up in the morning and getting out the door and facing the day again is courage in your life. Sometimes it is that you decide, I'm staying in this marriage. I'm going to have the courage to say yes, even though it doesn't feel like we're on the same page. It doesn't feel like we're on the same team. Sometimes courage is holding the line with your teenager because you know you're fighting, as we used to say, for their 25-year-old self. I'm not interested in what your 13-year-old brain wants. I'm interested in what your 25-year-old brain is going to want. And I'm going to preserve that until you get there. Sometimes it's courage, even when they're shouting things like, I hate you. I hate you. Has anybody? I'm telling you what, if one of our boys ever said that to me, I don't think they'd be alive. Tim would kill them. But there are some that are so bold, are they not? To just shout it out. So I want you to know sometimes courage in our lives looks a little something like that. Sometimes it's facing that boss that is abusive or who takes liberties he shouldn't. You get the idea. So as we think about courage, I want you to keep that in your mind. Maybe we're not going to war, but some days feel like war. Let's remember the subplots we talked about last night. This book has so many different plots going on. The first one we talked about last night was Vashti's demise. The second one you're going to see today is this feud between Mordecai and a new character, Haman. That's the one we're going to talk about just this morning as we get started, because you have to understand this to understand Esther. I mentioned that last night about Queen Vashti. You needed to understand who she was and what happened with her so you will understand deeper and why the things that happened with Esther are so significant. The same is true of this man named Haman. Haman is the king's right-hand man, all right? He's like the second in command. Literally, if I say second in command, he's running all the logistics. I always say this, like, I don't know if you know, but I did not go out there and set all of that up this week, right? All of the flowers and the fringe things. Like, I will tell you, there were 2 guys on staff yesterday, 2 days ago, who spent 7 hours hanging just these. It took 7 hours. I was like, I know it was my idea. But I said, sorry, I thought that would take like an hour. It took a while. But there's people that run the things, right? There's people that have the ideas about it, people that make it happen and execute, and they handle all the logistics. Now, he's doing that for this entire province. Remember, all of this empire is millions of miles, right? From Turkey to Ethiopia. So he is the one in charge of all those things. He's got his ear, as it says, meaning he's influential. He's going to always give him counsel. When it says that Xerxes would be like, oh, what do you guys think? He's going to be right there in the room. If it's, hey, we've been having a party for 6 months and 1 week, let's bring my beautiful queen in here and have her parade around. He's going to be like, yeah, that's a good idea. You know, he's always in the room where it happens, as they say. Shout out Hamilton. Okay. You're welcome. That's for my musical lovers. All right. Esther 3, here we go. We're going to start in verse 1. Esther 3. After all this took place, now remember, we've just left 2, and that, we'll get back to that. King Xerxes honored Haman. He honors Haman, son of, anybody want to take a stab at that? Hammedatha, the Agagite. Again, we'll cover that later. Don't have time. I had to cut that whole portion out. He promoted him in rank. He gave him a higher position than all the other officials. The entire royal staff at the king's gate bowed down to Haman. Say, bowed down to Haman. They paid homage to Haman. Say, paid homage to Haman. Because the king had commanded this to be done. But Mordecai would not bow down. You see that? He would not bow down. And then it goes on to say essentially in 3 and 4 that now the other workers that, remember, Mordecai works at the king's gate. He's there every day. And his co-workers notice day after day after day after day, he's not bowing down. And they're like, you need to bow down, he said. The rule keepers, anybody like the rules? It says you're supposed to. It says you're supposed to. You have to do it. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. Which there's always those people that are like, meh, loophole, right? I mean, And they go, no, you have to do it. You're supposed to bow down. It's like, no. And then he finally says, there's only one God that I bow down to. Come on, Mordecai. Verse 5, when Haman saw this, because now they've gone and told on him, right? Tattletales. When Haman saw that Mordecai was not bowing down or paying homage to him, he was filled with rage. Say, filled with rage. Yeah, he sure was. And then he learned of Mordecai's ethnic identity. Now we're going to get into racism. We're going to attach race to emotion. I wonder what sort of disastrous situation that could lead to. Has anybody ever seen that in this day and age? Attaching racism to emotion and starting to assign motive to people based on things. I'm just spitballing. And when he learned of Mordecai's ethnic identity, it seemed repugnant to Haman to just do away with Mordecai alone. He planned to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout Xerxes' kingdom. How far will the enemy go to destroy what God has anointed? As far as it takes. How far will he go? If we think back to John 10:10, as we mentioned last night, that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And the rest of that verse says, but I have come to give you life and life abundantly, life to the full. Do you see that? So you have an enemy who's seeking to destroy you, and he's going to go very, very far. What we see is, just wait, you haven't even seen it yet. Verse 9, if the king approves, Haman has this whole plan he puts out. if you approve of this plan to get rid of these, there's this ethnic group that's coming against you. We need to get rid of them. That's how he portrays it to the king. If you approve, let an order be drawn up authorizing their destruction, and I will pay 375 tons of silver to the officials for deposit in the king's treasury. Do you know how much 375 tons of silver is? Guess. Just yell it out. Everybody guess. What do you think? Whoa, okay. Way high. $530 million in today's money. I'm like, did they have that much? But I think of like Persian Empire, that's where all the riches are, you know. In our world, like that's where all the oil is, right? You know, like I think about, what's the Dubai? It's supposed to be like the wealthiest. I'm like, we're at that level of people. Like people will never know, right? Some of us, most of us. I mean, if you know them, let me know. But I'm just saying, most of us will never know this kind of, I can't even imagine what I can't imagine what $1 million looks like. $530 million. He's paying the king to fund his racism. Do you see that? Corruption, maybe? Anybody? A little corruption up high in the places that govern us. There is nothing new under the sun, if you did not know that. The Bible is all the drama anybody will ever need. Now, do you see what's happening, what's being set up here? So you have, remember, Mordecai is Esther's uncle, basically her adopted dad. He has raised this child. So the queen is a Jew. And now Haman, who is the right-hand man, has made it the law of the land, because it goes on to say that the king takes his signet ring and he seals this decree, this law, and it is sent out to all the provinces. Now, do you remember back in chapter 1 when they decided that Vashti had to go because she wouldn't get up and make the sandwich or get up and parade in front of them? And they said, once you made a law, it could not be undone. Do you remember that? So that exactly applies here, that we have this edict, is what they call it, or a law that's being sent out, that these people are going to be destroyed. Now, I'm going to describe to you, because we didn't have time to read all of chapter 3. I wanted to. I cut it all out, but I'm just going to narrate it for you. You can go and read it yourself if you want to fact check me. But it says that a certain day was appointed that this would take place. It would be months coming. So then this law is going to go out, probably because they needed time to get the word out to the furthest reaches of the empire, all the way out. And it's an appointed day, and it's very significant, and I don't have time to get into the historicity of it, but I want you to know something, that now they know, it wasn't a secret, they know about it, and it's coming, and they have to sit and wait for the day that it says they will all be slaughtered in one day, and all of their property, all their livestock, their children, their houses, anything they own will also be destroyed. Can you imagine that becoming a law? If, let's just say, and then you have this in your ethnic background, you are that. Like if someone ever just decided that we're going to shut down Christianity. Well, talk about courage. Would you start hiding immediately? Or would you stand up and start trying to do something about it? But do you think fear would be setting in? No, even the bravest of among us would find themselves in some sort of fear state, thinking, how do I protect? But first thought as a mom, how do I protect my kids? How do I get my kids out of here? How do I make sure they don't have to suffer this? You're thinking of everything. So this is the setup before we get to chapter 4, which is where I've been wanting to get the whole time. Oh, it's so good. Are you ready for chapter 4? Destiny draws you to the deep water. Sometimes with God, it's not just about staying in the easy, shallow end, but he calls you out to the deep, and we're going to get into that. Now, chapter 4, we're going to read a lot of it. We're going to start 1 through 10. Here we go. When Mordecai learned all that had occurred, so I've just told you what he is processing. He tore his clothes. He put on sackcloth and ashes, went into the middle of the city and cried loudly and bitterly. Stay right there for a moment. I want you to know this would have been a typical state of grief for their time. So when we are grieving, we allow each other a lot of grace to grieve as one does. And grief, if you do not know, is different for everyone, isn't it? You might be the type that you suffer a loss and you get through. I always say it's an interesting thing we do as a society that as soon as you lose a loved one and you're in the seat of making decisions, you are thrown into decision making. You're supposed to be at the height of your faculties to make these decisions. These are huge decisions that you have to make in the first 2 days. And everybody's looking to you, and all you want to do is block everybody out and sit and cry. But we don't get to do that as a society. Isn't that interesting that anyway, I don't know. I just always think it's such an odd thing to place these expectations on people. But grief will take over, and it looks different for everyone. So when it says that he tore his clothes, it means this is a sign to God that I am in absolute bewilderment. I do not know what to do next. I have no clue how I am supposed to move forward from this moment, from the news that I just got. It is the time that I would say I have experienced this. When my dad died, it was unexpected. And you know, I don't know what's worse on us is to lose someone unexpected or to lose someone through months and months and months of suffering. It's all hard. But for us, my dad died unexpectedly from a heart attack in the front yard at 58 years old. And when they called, it was a Friday afternoon. And first it was, your dad's collapsed, he's on his way to the ER. My parents live 7.5 hours away from here. So Tim said, why don't you go pack a bag and just get ready, because you're probably gonna need to go and help your mom and figure it out. Tim says now he knew he was gone. He just knew it. And then he gets a second phone call. Tim's got my phone now. He gets a phone call and he just walks into the bathroom where I'm packing bags and he just looks at me. And I knew. And I've never experienced this before, and I haven't since, but my legs just stopped working. They just fell out from under me. They just turned to jelly, and I fell to the ground in tears and anguish. And anguish would be what describes verse 1 right here with Mordecai, is I do not know what to do, God. That's what his posture is speaking to God and to others around him. Verse 2, he went only as far as the king's gate, since the law prohibited anyone wearing sackcloth from entering the king's gate. So you couldn't go beyond that. If you're in mourning, you can't come past here. Interesting. There was great mourning among the Jewish people. Of course there was. In every province where the king's command and edict reached, they fasted, they wept, they lamented, and many people lay in sackcloth and ashes. Of course, right? This was, I said, a common practice in grief and mourning. Verse 4, Esther's female servants and her eunuchs came and they reported the news to her. So now she's learning about this law that's gone out. She's young. You remember, she's this young girl. And the queen was what? Say it out loud. What does it say? Say it again. Overcome with fear. So she sent clothes. Look at this. She was overcome with fear, so she sent clothes. You know why she did that? So he could come in to the gate to be with her. Who do you want more than your dad or your mom when something's going wrong? Who do you want more? You know who? I just want my mom. I just want her to make cookies and hold me and hug me and make sure I'm okay. She sent clothes. I'm overcome with fear. I'm sitting, forget the grief period, forget the mourning. Get him some clothes and get him in here so that he would take off the sackcloth. But he did not accept them. Verse 5, Esther summoned Hatak, one of the king's eunuchs who attended her, and hey, now we have messengers going back and forth. Now this is how they're going to communicate for the rest of this chapter, just through messengers going back and forth. Do you wonder? I mean, I just feel like Mordecai was a D personality, very strategic. Have you, what's another one? Enneagram 8 would be an Enneagram 8. It would be like the CEO types. My husband is an 8. He is a D, meaning they're going to drive it. He's like, I will not take off this sackcloth. They will hear me wailing in the streets. Do not send me clothes. I'm not selling myself out to the nonsense happening inside the palace. I'm inferring, but I'm just saying we do get some character profiles as we read through these. All right, so she summons Hatak, one of the king's eunuchs who attended her, and dispatched him to Mordecai to learn what he was doing and why. All right. So Hatak went out to Mordecai in the city square in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told him everything that's happened, as well as the exact amount of money, because it was a lot, even for the Persians, that Haman had promised to pay the royal treasury for the slaughter of the Jews. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the law, all right? Issued so that she would understand it, so that she would see it in writing and show it to Esther. And then he says this in verse 8, explain it to her. Explain it to her. Make sure that she understands, and you tell her this. Command her to approach the king, implore his favor, and plead with him personally for her people. Verse 9, Hatak comes and repeats all of this to Esther. Esther speaks to Hatak and commands him to tell Mordecai, this is her answer. Everybody in this palace knows I cannot do that. All the royal officials and the people of the royal provinces know that one law applies to every man or woman who tries to approach the king in the inner courtyard. That's significant. You're going to need that later. And who has not been summoned. The death penalty. You are not allowed to even stand in the royal garden outside of the palace unless he has asked you to come in there, or it's the death penalty. And unless he might extend the king's scepter and show you favor, allowing that person to live. I have not been summoned to appear before the king in a month, the last 30 days. That was her response to Mordecai. We're going to stop right there for a moment. Whoa. Talk about something unfolding that is unexpected. See, sometimes there's a crossroads in crisis that will challenge your calling. And you're going to find yourself, I believe, at a crossroads many times in your life. Because I believe sometimes the enemy is sort of trying to throw you off course, but also sometimes God is testing you. Do you believe me? Do you believe me still? Are you willing to sacrifice? Do you trust me? So when you're at a crossroads, you need to ask yourself, who is it that has pushed me to this crossroads? Which force is it that's got me at this crossroads? For our purposes, this is absolutely a God moment in her life. But in crisis, you see, we find ourselves in these places where God is trying to pivot us in some form or fashion. Sometimes it is that God is trying to physically move you to another location, another job, a different neighborhood, perhaps a different city, maybe something radical. Maybe he's calling something with your kids. I can remember watching my teenage boys struggle with their faith. I will say my boys they're all involved in serving this weekend, and it is amazing to watch. I shouldn't say boys anymore because they're pretty much all grown now, but to the mom, they're always your boys. But it was not a straight line to them being born into a pastor's family, because I can remember saying at 13, 14, like, I know you don't love being this. I know you don't love what your dad does and what we do, but I'm so sorry you were born into the wrong family, so sorry. I'm never getting on that stage. I don't even want to go. You're not the only ones. Like, okay, that's fine, but we are going, so get your shoes on or go barefoot because the car is leaving, and if you're not in it, you will suffer the consequences. Yes, you will. So I can remember there were times that they would be at a crossroad and I could see it. Can you tell when your kids are struggling? I want to tell, this is not in the sermon notes, but if you will pray for discernment over your kids, God will give it to you. You will see it on them. I can remember watching them walk down the stairs and I could see it all over them that they were struggling, meaning they were being pulled between the enemy and God. And I'm like, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find it. And I'm digging in technology. Yes, I am. There it is. Boom. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. So I will tell you, listen to that. And then you have to make adjustments. You have to pivot. Maybe your plan for parenting is they can have the phone. It's fine. They need their privacy. I would never infringe. No. That's not in the Bible, so. You infringe all day long. They ain't got no privacy. You pay for the house. Did you pay for the bed? Did you pay for the pillow? Did you pay for the sheets? Did you go to Home Goods and find a whole new bedding thing for today? Yeah, you did all that. You pay for it. That's yours. That's not theirs. They're being raised in a society that tells them they have these rights. They don't have those rights yet. If you want to shape them, you have to decide that you're going to hold the line sometimes. And sometimes that's courage, but sometimes you're going to find yourself at a parenting crossroad that if you don't decide to stand and let God test them and test you and your resolve, you're going to lose the battle. And then you're going to lose the war. And you don't want to do that. You want to send them at 18 to college with a few things in their back pocket. And that is a respect for authority. That is a love for Jesus. And that is a respect for people around them. They're among other things. But if you're at a crossroad and you're sensing that discernment, you got to listen to what God is trying to tell you. And that's just one example. Oftentimes in our faith, we're going to be at a crossroads, and that crisis, again, like I said last night, is designed to pull something out of you that you had not yet tapped into. Sometimes God is using that to bring you to a place that you couldn't get otherwise. And we also find like dilemma in the middle of these things, right? There's these dilemmas that get involved, and the reason we might stand at the crossroads so long is because we can't decide which way to go. I'm going to say this. Raise your hand if you're a quick decision maker. There's just a few. Raise your hand if you're like, oh no, I need a minute. I'd like to process. I like information. Raise your hand. Okay. Yes, I get it. Sometimes I am like that. Most of the time I'm like, make. And then I just deal with what I missed on the back end. But the people that process are like, yeah, I would never miss a step. So cute. Never. You know, you won't find on my headstone is she missed a step. No, she did not. Now that's for you. She missed all the steps, but something happened at the end. She did miss a few steps. So when you find yourself there, it's things like this. What I hear Esther saying, our dilemmas in destiny are like, it's bad timing. Have you ever said that? It's not the right time. It's bad timing. She says, first of all, I haven't seen him in a month. I haven't seen this man. I haven't been in his presence. He hasn't called me. Now, I'm going to tell you a little something, and this is clearly Old Testament time. Some things you look back and you're like, I don't know about that. There were many wives and concubines, as they call it. One queen. She's the queen. She's the head girl, right? The head girl. And being the head girl in the wrong hands, that equals a mean girl. Have you ever known that? That's what that is, just throwing that out. But he basically could sleep with anyone he wanted whenever he wanted. This is a godless society, this Persian Empire, godless. And then you have a godly girl that's been placed in the middle of this. It's like God put an inside man in the palace. I kind of like that. But here she is, and she's like, no, I can't just go and approach him. You know, it's the death penalty, but also he doesn't want to see me. He doesn't want me. He's got these other girls. It's likely that he won't call me again. Like, am I past my prime? This girl's like 18 years old. Am I already past my prime? Some of us ask ourselves that. Well, these are nice messages. This is nice truth, but I'm past my prime. God can't do anything with me. And I'm going to tell you that God's time is always the right time. God's time is always prime time in your life to use you. It doesn't matter if you are 14 or 34 or 64 or 84, God can use you. When he's decided it's time, that's when it's time. And when God's time takes over, there's no bad timing in the works, but we wrestle with that ourselves and say there's no possible way I could choose that. I could have the courage to say yes because it's bad timing. Or number two, how about unreasonable expectations? anyone ever wrestled with, you're asking too much. You're asking too much. It's simply not possible. Do you know all the things I have to do? Do you know all the things that would have to take place for me to do that? Do you understand the personal sacrifice you're asking me for? Do you understand that it would cause division around me? Do you understand that it might cause a rift with my friend group or my family, or it's going to be uncomfortable? Do you understand what you're asking me? And she, in the unstated, what we know is she is, just think about it, one queen among many wives and concubines. I don't know the number. Do you think she ever felt alone inside that palace? Do you think any women just looked at her walk in a room like, oh, I can't believe she won? I mean, I'm gorgeous. Look at her. What do we do as women? What do? We start comparing. We start wanting what she has. I wish I looked like, I wish I had that. I wish. Especially in our world. They didn't even have social media. Can you imagine? They'd be roasting her upside and down. But no, do you think that they hung out in corners and whispered as she walked through? Do you think that when she walked in, they stopped talking? Do you think that when it was time to eat lunch and they all gathered, I'm just assuming they all gathered in the same grand ballroom for lunch every day with a beautiful table set, that she sat by herself? Yeah, I bet she did. You see, she's alone. Her aloneness has never been more stark to her than it is right now. You are asking too much of me, and give him some clothes so he can come in here and help me make these decisions. I don't know what to do, but I know that you're asking me too much. You're asking too much. There's no way that I can do that. And she will need to find her resolve alone, by herself and God. She will need to be alone and listening and find that resolve in solitude before God. She will not come to a conclusion. Sometimes, and I have heard God tell me this one time in my life, you shut out every other voice around you and you listen to me alone, and you do exactly what I say, and stop doing the things that bad counsel is telling you to do. One time, you better believe I listened. Absolutely. She will have to find that place alone. The third one, the dilemmas, risky identification. She has, until this point, kept it a secret that she is a Jewish girl. They do not know in the palace that she's a Jewish girl. They don't know Mordecai is her uncle. Do you understand? They don't know, because they know Mordecai is a Jew. And now they do not know about Esther. So if she reveals, it already says what's going to happen in a few months. They're all going to be slaughtered on one day. She's like, I can't risk everything to tell them who I am. And I will tell you, one of the most important parts of fulfilling a calling in your life, or any leadership position, or anything you do in walking with God, because I know, do you know when you see inauthenticity? I know when I see it. Meaning, do you know when someone's not being real, when they're being fake, when they're presenting an image? One of the things we like to do in our day and age is what I call image control. We go around just trying to make sure everybody has a certain picture of us and who we are, and make sure that, oh yeah, everything's fine. How are things, how are you? I'm good. When really everything's going to, what, and you wish you could dive into it, but you can't, and you keep it locked in. Some of us are raised in church cultures where it wasn't even allowed to mention you were struggling. So now you've got this conditioning. Maybe you were in a home where if you did say how things were really going at home, you would out someone or you would out bad behavior. But I will tell you, when you step into the calling of God, transparency has never been more important. because God calls you. Everything that you are will be exposed when you step into the calling of God. And if you don't live like that anyway, you're going to find yourself caught in these traps that you yourself have created. And then God will test that because he wants to work that out. But also the enemy will come for you if you are hiding things, if you are stuffing them down, if you are closing the door, the enemy will come for that very thing and he will pull it out and he will do the exposing. So you want that in God's hands. You don't want that in the enemy's hands. Everything you are, transparency will be required. And she knows that. So she's like, well, what do I do now? So the calling, the challenge to be courageous. Esther 4, we're going to pick back up in 13, and this is where we're at. Now, this is the good stuff, y'all. We're almost to the end. Mordecai told the messenger to reply to Esther, don't think you will escape the fate of all the Jews because you're in the king's palace. Don't think you're going to escape this. 14, if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will come to the Jewish people from another place, but you and your father's family will be destroyed. And who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Like such a casual phrase. Perhaps you have come to this royal position. Say it with me out loud. For such a time as this. Say it again. For such. Say it again. Esther sent this reply to Mordecai, go and assemble all the Jews. She's going to muster up her courage, that girl is. Everyone that can be found in the city, in Susa, and fast for me, on my behalf. Don't eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. Me and my female servants, I and my female servants will also fast in the same way. And after that, I will go to the king, even if it's against the law. And if I die, I die. Say it out loud. If I die, I die. So you go and fast and pray. Look at the formula. Look at the formula. Please gather everyone and ask them to fast and pray for me. I'm going to get all my servants and we're going to fast and pray. We're going to do this for 3 days. And at the end of that, she gives herself an end date. Do you see that? Some of us say something like this. Oh, yeah. I'll do that. I'm going to pray about it. I'll pray about it. Will you? Okay. Oh, you'll pray with me. Okay, we'll pray about it. Okay. And then what? How many years you've been praying about that? How many years? How many times you ask somebody to pray about that with you? If you have a conviction about something, you ask somebody to pray, you pray. Is God just going to convict you about that forever, but you're never really going to take a step? How many years have you been praying about that? She gives herself an end date. She knows she's indecisive. She knows she'll say no. Who she is, Esther will say, this is way too much. I'm not even 20 years old. What are you asking of me? She gives herself an end date. She says, at the end of 3 days, I will go before the king, and if I die, I die. Now, I want to dissect this just a moment. If you remain silent at the beginning of 14, listen, if you remain silent, this is a reference to, I want you to see this, meaning basically, if you remain silent, you should know what's going to happen. Relief and deliverance will arise from God's people from another place. It doesn't say God, I put that in. Relief and deliverance will arise from some other place. What other place? What other place is it? It's God. That's right. It doesn't say it, but it's implied there. The providence of God will come in and take place. How does he know this? How does he know? Well, he's heard stories. He says, who knows? I find it funny. That's the beginning of 14. Put all of 14 up in its full. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will come from some other place. And then this casual phrase, just imagine it in parentheses, who knows? Okay, funny that you should say that. And then on the back end, this beautiful big statement, perhaps you've come to your royal position for such a time as this. Who knows? Has any phrase in the English language invoked more confidence than who knows? I mean, who knows? I don't know. I mean, Carrie, what are we having for lunch today? Who knows? Huh. What's the theme for Sisterhood? Who knows? What do you want to get the kids for Christmas this year? Who knows? You want to go on a trip? Who knows? Yes, the answer is always yes, right? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? It struck me as funny to find that phrase in the middle of these statements that are bold and direct and very clear and challenging to someone who probably doesn't seem to be a challenging personality, right? Because some of us that are aggressive in our speech, sometimes we come across a little strong. I know this about myself. If you don't, you should jump on the self-awareness train. It's better to just say it out loud, and that way everybody can know that you know and you're working on it, okay? So those of us that tend to speak like this, do you know I soften my language for those I know don't operate like that because it comes across like I want to fight. It does. And I have one child that's exactly like me in that. He wishes he was not, but he is, Titus. And I mentioned my granddaughter seems to be same way. I'm nodding at the other grandmother here in the room. Co-grandparents, we love it. It's amazing. She's aggressive. But when you speak to your friends who are more soft-hearted and soft-spoken, and they're listening, because they'll let us talk all day. There's a lot of thoughts, but we haven't shut up long enough for them to get them out. Then I can see the looks. It's either like this kind of like subtle consternation or complete glazed defeat. I've now stopped listening to you. So it's funny that in the middle of his very direct statements, he says, who knows? So I had to look that up, It's how I read. I had to find it. Now, it's a literary device that's being used here. Who knows? So it's strategic how he says this. Now, the Greek word sounds a little bit like apple cider pieces, okay? Aposiopesis. Say that 5 times real fast. There it is. Aposiopesis. I have practiced it 100 times, and this is the first time I got it right. So I'm happy for that. But look at it. It's a literary device used as a sudden breaking off of what's being said or written so that the mind is more impressed by what's left unsaid. So it's something like this. You'll do it or else. Well, I'm not saying what the or else is, but it's a threat nonetheless. Make sense? That's the same thing that's being used here. So it's sort of used for dramatic effect in a hyper-emotional time or something that you really want people to understand. It's meant to invoke some sort of fear, right? So who knows what will happen? Who knows what would have happened? Who knows that God didn't place you, is what he's saying. He didn't bring you into this beauty pageant out of like, I'm just living my quiet life happy, and someone brings me on I don't know, do they walk around the streets like, hey, you're gorgeous, get on the truck, let's go. I don't know, imagine that's the way it went. They pull her out of oblivion and say, come on in. I mean, who knows that wasn't the hand of God pulling you in to place you here so you could be the one that goes to the king that says, wait, I'm Jewish. If you love me, don't kill my people. Who knows, Esther, if you weren't placed for such a time as this? But I will tell you this. Now, you have to listen to what he says. I believe it's in 13, isn't it? That he says, don't think that you will escape the fate of the Jews because you're in the palace, because on the day that it comes for the slaughter day to occur, you will be slaughtered with the rest of us. So it seems to be the dilemma that she wasn't even thinking of when she was processing the bad timing and the unreasonable expectations and the fact that she's never told anybody her real identity. It seems to be the real dilemma is, I'm going to die if I go before the king and I've not been summoned, and I'm going to die if I wait this out and just wait for the day to arrive. If I die, I die. Either way, he says, but what if, who knows, God didn't place you here so nobody has to die? Oh, that's heavy. Do you think that her destiny has called her to the deep water? Do you think she's on the shore having fun in the sun, in the shallow, looking for seashells? No, no, no. She's out in the deep water of faith now, and she's got to do something about it. So who knows? Who knows? Why does Mordecai know so well? It seems a hint of confidence. Well, he knows because he knows. Just in 3 chapters of Exodus, 6, 7, 8, we're gonna rapid fire these. This is God speaking to the people, right? This is them getting ready for the Exodus. So they're in another situation where they can't keep on like this, and God's got a plan, and he's called a man to bring them out, and they're trying to, how are we gonna do this? I can't go before him. And here we are again, Exodus 6, 7, I'll take you as my people, I will be your God. You will know. You will what? You will what? You will know that I am Yahweh your God. Exodus 7, 17. This is what Yahweh says. That's God. That's the incommunicable name of God. We can't get into that today. Here's how you will know that I am Yahweh. Watch. Exodus 8. This way you will know that I, Yahweh, am in the land. This is just 3 chapters. From Exodus all the way to where they are now. Mordecai has heard these time after time after time after time. You will know that I am God. You will know that I am Yahweh. You will know why? Because you're gonna watch me do it. You will know. How does he say who knows? Because he knows. There's no really question as far as my human understanding process that like it's so casual, but he's saying something deeper. He's saying something implied, which is over and over. When the who knows becomes I know, then you have all that you need to step forward into your calling. When the who knows becomes I know, you have everything you need. So you can sit in praise, so that you can stand in courage. You can sing his songs, and then you'll be able to shout in the strength that he gives you, because he is Yahweh. He has done it before. He will do it again, and he has called you for such a time as this. Let's pray and get ready for worship. God, thank you for all you've done. There is no other God like you. There is nothing more dramatic, nothing that will call us to a deeper place than you alone, God. And so today, as we sit here in this room and we've heard this, feels like we're in the deep waters already. It feels like what you're doing is trying to take us to a place where trust will be required. Because I don't need any trust in the shallow end. I need the trust in the deep end. And so God, what we pray is that this morning you would continue that. Show us what it is in our lives. Show us what it is that you've called us to. Help us to know and remember that it starts on our knees in front of you, saying thank you for all that you've done, to drive down into our hearts. I know who I believe. Let's worship.